What's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream. And it's only a few days now to the January transfer window opens, but suddenly things have burst into life at Chelsea. Todd Boehly seems to be on a mad one. Enzo Fernandez deal seems to be getting a little bit closer, potentially looking to hijack Arsenal's move for Mudryk as well from Shakhtar. Potential interest in Alexis McAllister at Brighton if the Enzo deal doesn't come through. There's so much news to go through and it's all kind of exploded into life in the last, well, definitely today and a little bit yesterday as well. I'm delighted to be joined by Pys, bro. Great to have you as always, mate. Really appreciate your time. Mate, what is going on at the moment? Because suddenly we've gone from not so much and then bang, it's Enzo. Then it's Mudryk. Like, what's going on here?
I don't know what's going on. Like, I can't get off my phone. Like, every 20, 30 minutes, some new article drops, some different news drops, some updates. Like, bro, I honestly, I've never experienced this in my whole time as a Chelsea fan. Like, I can't remember. Like, this is, I just can't put it into context, bro. Right. So this is a January window, which notoriously is very, very hard to do deals. You've got Todd Boehly out here acting like it's a summer window. But the funniest part of it all is the window isn't even open yet.
Mate, I was going to say, this feels like a deadline day and the window's not even open.
It feels like we've got 2 days before the deadline to do an Enzo Fernandez deal. The window's not even open. I'm speechless. I don't know how to explain things. I'm just going along with it. It's literally 100 miles an hour. Obviously talks of Enzo all of today. Amazing that he said yes to us. We've still got our pull there clearly. He wants to come. I'm sure we've offered him a big wage as well, but I'll be really interested to see if this one goes through. I feel like it will get done just because for a lot of different reasons we'll talk about. But yeah, man, it's just I genuinely I don't know what to think. In 10 minutes there could be a new link to someone. I'm literally, my mind is going it's just spinning is how I'd explain it. I don't know where I'm at.
It is mad. I mean, let's start with the main one. And let's start with Enzo Fernandez. By the way, big up everyone in the chat, guys, as well. We'll get to your comments. Make sure you smash the likes on the stream and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll get to your comments in a sec. Start with Enzo then. There had been talks there'd been murmurings that Chelsea were interested in the player, but there was nothing concrete really. And it was kind of sort of widely assumed that it would be pretty difficult to get him out of Benfica in January. Remember, this is a player that only joined Benfica 6 months ago from River Plate for 10 million. He's played 24 games for the club. He's obviously a World Cup winner of Argentina. He's a Copa America winner as well. He's 21 years of age. He's obviously a very good player, but I don't think Benfica were expecting him to move so quickly after he arrived. Obviously, the only way a team's going to get him is by paying the release clause, which is 120 million euros. Chelsea looking to obviously pay a bit more than that, like they did with the Nkunku deal, so that they can structure the payment terms in a more preferable way to suit them, because obviously with the release clause, you've got to pay, I think I'm right in saying, you've got to pay it all up front in one go. But it looks like we're trying to sort of, structure it in more favourably for us so we don't pay as much up front. Mate, what do you think? What do you make of this move? Do you think I look at it as Chelsea being opportunistic here and thinking that if we're going to get Enzo Fernandez, we have to do it in January, because if it goes to the summer and there's other teams interested like Liverpool, like Real Madrid, like PSG and whatnot, then he probably isn't going to choose us. So if it's either get him in January or it's not get him at all. Would you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think so, bro. Just as we're speaking now, Jacob Steinberg has just said that Enzo Fernandez has told Benfica now that he wants to go to Chelsea. So, I mean, another update
mad,
there.
Isn't it? Wow.
It's crazy. Fabrizio, again, 2 seconds ago, indications Enzo will start on the bench tonight. So, the viewers watching, if you don't know, they're playing tonight, Benfica.
Is that a cup game?
No, it's a league game against.
It's a league.
Yeah, it's against Braga, which is one of their biggest games of the season apparently, and he's not playing. So,
but it's an Otamendi playing as well, though.
Yeah, well, apparently he's going to start, but Enzo isn't. Which Benfica side, they'll say obviously, look, this is because they've got back, but we're not buying it.
They all played. Otamendi started most of the games at the World Cup anyway.
Yeah, exactly, and he's 40 and Enzo's 21. This is obviously because he wants to join Chelsea and there's discussions ongoing. So Yeah, I mean, I agree with you though. I don't think we get him in the summer because
No.
I think more clubs then have more money. I think yeah, it's slightly opportunistic, but I also think it's going to be really good business if we get this deal done in the payment terms we want to, because I think it's certainly possible that, even though we may pay 110, 115 million, look, if we can pay like 40 million a year or 50 million a year or something like that, or even less, like that will go down really good on the books with the whole like FFP situation. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to explain. I'm really excited about this player. I can't find an attribute which he's not good at. And he's excellent at a lot of attributes. So he's definitely going to give us the vision we need in our midfield. I mean, some of the passes this guy makes, bro, are outrageous. Like, we always complain about Chelsea making the wrong final pass, whether it be Havertz, whether it be Mount, whether it be Sterling, whoever. Like, even sometimes Kovacic, this guy is just, his passing is insane. And also, what's interesting is the two games that I think Argentina struggled in the World Cup. You had Saudi Arabia where they lost.
He didn't start in that game.
Enzo didn't
No.
start, and then I think there was another one where they were losing or drawing, and he came off the bench and won them the game pretty much. So, I mean, like, you're going to have to pay a premium for elite talent, and I think this is what we're going to do. I mean, I just can't, like, I'm so speechless because this is like a summer transfer that happens in the middle of the summer window. This is not something that should be happening right now. This is not something that's happening.
I mean, I can't lie, mate. It does feel like real life Football Manager. Like it's just it is mad. I think in terms of Enzo, I think very exciting young player. I know people might say they might prefer Jude Bellingham or they might prefer Declan Rice or whatever. We'll get on to Rice a bit later. I don't think this necessarily, if it goes through, means that Rice is off. I think we're capable of getting both. But I mean, mate, what do you think of spending this much money on, despite how good this player is, that we have to be aware that we've spent a lot of money on players in the past, and the majority of our big money signings haven't worked out. I mean, if this does go through, what do you think makes this one different, and it would be a success compared to ones in the past? We spent big money on Lukaku, disaster. Havertz hasn't really worked out. Just to name two more recently. I mean, what makes you think this one will be different? Because whatever way you look at it, it's a phenomenal amount of money. It'll be the most expensive Premier League player ever, surpassing the Jack Grealish 100 million. It's a lot of pressure on the kid. But yeah, mate, what makes you think this will be different than previous big money signings at Chelsea that haven't worked out?
Well, I think just his raw talent, first off. I think what I will say as well is, like, even with Havertz, with Lukaku, there was always rival fans or pundits or, you know, like tactical experts and all that. Those type of people, there was always something they found where they were like, okay, he could flop because of this. With Enzo, I've not seen one person over hundreds and hundreds of tweets and videos and everything that has said, this could be a problem in the Premier League. There is literally not one thing. The only thing people are going off is, will he be able to handle the pressure? And, like, I don't know him personally, but all I know is Argentinians they're warriors, bro. South Americans in general are warriors, and I think this guy will have that mentality, will have that, kind of like spine to him to sort of like just, kind of big himself up, I guess, a little bit. So at least that's what I'm hoping for anyway. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm very excited about this move if it does happen. Obviously, nothing decided yet, as Fabrizio has said about 5 minutes ago, but I don't expect it to be. This is the biggest move in Premier League history. This is going to take some time. But the fact is, we've been negotiating since this morning. So this is a hard-fought, pressing negotiation that has lasted several hours. I remember when we signed Lukaku, I think it was like, there was reports from Marina that she would negotiate like most of the day, but then they'd have a break, they'd come back to it. So I expect
these men are relentless.
Yeah, like I expect a little bit of just sort of like, I don't really expect any more updates tonight because of their game, but who knows? I mean, they might strike a deal late tonight. It's just something that we have to be a little bit patient for. I mean, give it a couple more days and I think it will be done, I think.
Yeah, mate, I think so as well. I mean, I was just gonna come on to that. Do you expect this to go through? I mean, obviously we're into negotiations. I think now with Benfica, it's very much just convincing them, what payment terms, or getting them to agree to the preferable payment terms that we want. From what I've read, from what you understand, Enzo wants Chelsea. It's just a case of sorting out the payment structure. Is that all we're waiting for, or is there anything else that could potentially scupper this deal?
No, it's literally just payment structure, payment terms. They've got to negotiate, obviously, how much we're going to pay per year, potential add-ons. So yeah, that's literally it. And I mean, uh, this is what's going to take the time. There'll be a lot of back and forth. Benfica will go, we want this. I think a couple of sources have reported that Christopher Vivell is heading up these negotiations. He's been in Portugal. Unclear whether he's still there, but he might be. So I think this is one that will get done, but it's going to take I think another 24, 48 hours. But the fact that we're so relentless on this, it's like
Yeah.
it's moving so fast. Like, and
Mate,
the
do you know
fact
what's yeah.
the fact he's told them now that I want to go, like they can't really like mess about and keep him. Like, you know what I mean? Like for me, I think once a player tells you, look, I want to leave, he's probably like the Premier League's his dream. So as Fabrizio said, so if you end up going like if you end up messing about with Chelsea too much, he's going to go right. Well, what's going on here? I want to move, sort of thing. So that's why I think it's moving so fast because of his desire more than anything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, for me, I think, he wants to come to Chelsea. Fantastic. I mean, this is a lad that can go to any club he wants to go to in the summer. And as we've said, this is Chelsea being opportunistic. I think they realised that, like with Nkunku, if it went to the summer, we weren't going to get him. So we had to do it now. And I quite like, what I really like is how we've had years of really shit transfer business and shit negotiation with Marina did some good things, but let's be honest, the majority of the time, the transfer dealings at Chelsea have been really poor. And it's so nice that we've got like a new team in place now, which has taken time. And I know people were moaning about the fact it was taking time, but we've now got a group of people in, and already we're seeing how much more efficient business is at Chelsea compared to what it was like before. Mate, how pleased are you to see that, we're actually acting ruthlessly and efficiently in the transfer market for a change?
Insane. Like, yeah, I'm lost for words. I'm so impressed, honestly. Like, I'm genuinely so impressed. Obviously, I didn't agree with the Tuchel sacking. But
Yeah.
every like literally, and I mean literally everything else apart from that has been spot on for me. They've revamped the recruitment structure. Um, they've come in, they've spent money. They're doing interviews quite a lot, which even though they might not obviously be on the Chelsea app, you can still find them online. They're talking. You've got like Daniel Finkelstein, who's like an outlet for the fans to speak to. So, like they've got kind of all angles covered, and they're showing this ambition to an extremely high level. For those people who say like, oh, Chelsea don't have a plan, this, that, and the other, like these people need to remember that the people that are heading this up, Todd Bowley, Badadi Bali, are like some of the most successful businessmen in the world. They're billionaires for a reason, even though they haven't ventured into football specifically. When it comes to numbers, negotiating that type of thing, FFP, financial stuff, they're gonna know what they're doing. Like it may seem crazy, but in a few months' time, it will all make sense. That's what I want to say. It might not make sense now. It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know how we're spending this much money. But I know it makes sense because they're businessmen. They're not just some
Yeah.
guy who's come in and gone, oh, you know what, I'll throw 400 million, see what happens. No, there's clearly a plan behind it because every time you listen to their interviews, they're so like articulate with the way they speak about Chelsea. It's like insane to me.
Mate, just one thing slightly off topic, not to do with Chelsea, but Cristiano Ronaldo has just signed for Al Nassr in the Saudi League. He's expected to be, so as just Ben Jacobs said, he's expected to officially be announced after Al Nassr's game with Al Khalij. Al Nassr have had the logistics in place for a week. Ronaldo expected to live in, I can't pronounce that. He's expected to live somewhere in Saudi Arabia, but apparently, yeah, he's that's done. And
I
part
mean,
of his medical's already been completed, and the second part is due to take place in Riyadh. I mean,
well,
I guess that means he's definitely not coming to Chelsea. But Ronaldo is signing for Al Nassr, so we've got it all going on. Mate, this just to be clear, it would be with the view of Enzo coming right now in terms of coming in January. It wouldn't be agreeing a deal and then he stays and he comes in the summer. He would be coming right now. Is that right? If he does
yeah,
come,
I mean
yeah,
that's been the reporting at the moment. So yeah, as well, I don't think like I know we spent a lot for Nkunku, but I'd be surprised considering we, like they clearly want a midfielder if they just sort of said, "Oh, you know what, we'll do it for the summer." I think this one is for January, yeah. And I also think if it wasn't for January, I think it would have been mentioned by now. That's what they
Yeah.
would be discussing, So
Yeah, no, I would expect so. I mean, Benfica, in fairness to him, I mean, like this club is unbelievable at finding players and the amount of money it makes. I mean, have you seen like the players that Benfica have sold over the years and how much money they've made off them? Like, mate, they're gonna if Enzo leaves, they're gonna have made 5 million per game from him, and he's played 24 games for him. And he signed for 10 mil. They're going to get over 100 mil for him. You look at Felix. You look at there's many others. I mean, the list of players that they've brought in and then sold on for huge money to Europe is quite remarkable. So fair play to him. But mate, from a Chelsea perspective, I bet you can't wait if this goes through to see him and Kovacic in a midfield together.
I'll see if oh my god, like, oh mate, that would just be crazy, honestly. Like him, Jorginho and Enzo, Kovacic, Jorginho, like that's like the whole. That's like the dream liquid footed Sarista midfield, like coming to the bridge. Like I want to see that for a few games, bro. Like try and get the ball off us.
Yeah, mate. How I'm just going to bring something up on the screen now, and then we will move on from Enzo. How accurate is this guy here? Let me just bring it up. Where is it? This one here. How accurate is Nico Shearer? I presume he's not. No, not good. So that this report that Chelsea have reached an agreement with Enzo on a contract till 2028 with a salary of 10 mil a year is probably untrue.
Yeah, no, he's
not great.
He's well known tier 4 for me.
Tier 4, fair. No, we'll get rid of that. Before we move on, a lot of people are asking about Leao. We'll get to that in a sec. Do you think that then this ends Chelsea's pursuit of Declan Rice, or you still think, like myself, I feel that Chelsea will just get him in the summer? This will be the big midfielder in January, and then in the summer it'll be Rice. Do you think Chelsea still want Rice, or the potential arrival of Enzo? Do you reckon that ends the Rice interest?
I think it's going to be really interesting because, like, if Jorginho extends and Kante extends, that would be like the whole reporting of like this new rebuild not really happening, but actually it might like even be even better because you've got like you didn't have Jorginho. Say we sign Rice, then you'd have Enzo, Kovacic, say Chukwuemeka stage. You'd probably then sell Gallagher and Loftus-Cheek.
Yeah,
and obviously Mount as well to consider in the midfield. So we'd have a lot of midfielders. So I don't know whether it will just be Enzo. I mean, numbers wise, it would make sense just to get Enzo, but if we want to compete for the Premier League next season, I think we have to try and get Rice in the summer or someone of that that profile at least, that high level profile. But yeah, I mean just be interesting to see what sort of what our budget will be like by the end of this window, because if we sign Enzo, I think they're still I 100% believe they're going to sign a right back of some sorts. We're signing Badiashile. That's another 35 million. We might sign a forward. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where all this money. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they're going to look at Fofana in training and decide what to do with him. I mean, part of me thinks he's obviously going to be best to go out on loan. But also, if we're spending all this money, then we might end up just keeping him for 6 months and send him on loan next season. I think it just kind of, I guess it just kind of depends, really, doesn't it? But I just wanted to bring up one more thing on the midfield before we move on. Chelsea would consider a move for Brighton's Alexis McAllister if the Enzo Fernandez deal fails. I think obviously you've got to have alternative targets. Obviously you want the deal to work. If I mean, God forbidding it doesn't fall through, but I mean, mate, are you a fan of McAllister? Brighton would be so pissed off with us if we go back in for another one of their players or and whatnot. But I mean, if Enzo doesn't go through, would you like someone like Alexis McAllister? I really like him. I thought he had a great World Cup and he looks a really good player.
I think he's good, but I would prefer Caicedo, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think, he's my preferred midfielder just from what my personal preference is. But McAllister is good. But I don't even want to think about other midfielders at the moment. I want Enzo because if that doesn't happen, I think all the fan base is going to be gutted and
Yeah,
You
we've
know,
got well excited for it now, haven't
yeah, like
we?
we've got like so far into this deal. There's been so many updates that if it doesn't happen, it's kind of like,
So pissed.
everyone will be deleting their tweets. Everyone will be mad, and whoever we get after that, unless we just go and like bid the same amount for Bellingham or something, which honestly I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, like I think Enzo's the one that's got to happen. It's so advanced. Like for me, he doesn't start tonight. He's 21 years old. He can play. Like if Otamendi starts as well, that just says everything. Like they're playing Braga. And by the way, the key thing for me is yesterday, Thursday night, their manager literally said, like, Enzo has come back. He's ready and all this sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And now a day later they're not playing him. Like it just doesn't add up, mate. So.
No, it doesn't. And I think, it's very, despite Benfica obviously don't want to lose him, I think once a player has, said that he wants to join Chelsea, has he told Benfica he wants to leave?
Yeah, he's told Benfica.
Oh, he's told them. Yeah. So once that's happened, then I think it's very difficult for Benfica to hold on to him and keep an unhappy player for another 6 months. I think this deal will get done, but as I say, mate, I think it's going to take a couple more days for it to go through. The payment structure is the key thing. It's a lot of money. Let's make no mistake about it. But it's certainly exciting. I mean, just to round out on this segment, mate, you think deal definitely going to happen? Enzo will be a Chelsea player next month?
I don't want to say definitely, but I'd say
80%?
No, I'd go as far as like 95% confident.
95% confident.
I don't want to jinx anything because I just like we've not negotiated with Benfica in a while. They could just say like, no, we're not happy. Chelsea could decide, this payment structure is not what we want, and then it could just not happen. But I feel like we're so far into it now, so hopefully it will happen. Hopefully,
mate. We have to hope. We have to hope. By the way, guys, keep smashing the likes, keep subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate the support. Mate, let's move on. Loads of people in the chat are asking about Rafa Leao. What do you know about that? I mean, that's obviously not going to happen in January. Do we think in the summer we're going to move any closer to getting that done? I guess it all depends on whether he signs a new contract or not, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Fabrizio got asked about this earlier on YouTube Live, and he said obviously Chelsea are obviously like he's a target for Chelsea, but even he said like we have to be careful of like the budget Chelsea going to spend. Like it's quite unclear at the moment, and obviously he's still in negotiations with Milan, so he seems pretty happy there.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great city and stuff. If Chelsea came, I'd personally move. I think London's better. I think Premier League and all that. But at the moment, I'd say it's quite unlikely. To be honest with you, but anything can happen. Anything can happen. Honestly, I'm not ruling these guys out of literally anything. Like we might put a bid in for Messi tomorrow morning. I might be joking.
Mate, you know.
It's not even like it's crazy.
Yeah, mate, it would be mad. Just let's move on to attackers then. I don't know how true this is, but obviously in the Guardian, Fabrizio Romano, Ed Aarons, Steinberg involved as well, that Chelsea hope to hijack Arsenal's move for Mudryk, the Shakhtar Donetsk winger. Shakhtar holding out for 85 million. Obviously, Chelsea could revisit in the summer as well. Mate, what are your thoughts on us targeting a winger in the window, and how credible do you think this is? I was saying to you before we went live that it could just be tactics from Mudryk's camp to get Arsenal to get a bit of a move on potentially. But how much truth do you think there is in this? There's obviously reliable sources have come together with this story, so it's obviously come from somewhere. But do you expect Chelsea to follow through with Mudryk, and do you actually think a wing is going to come in January? Because it definitely wasn't really part of the thinking, was it?
It's interesting as well because the last few days Fabrizio has been saying strikers is the priority. Even the Telegraph exclusive said Felix, who's I mean, to be fair, they did say he would. Well, they think he would play on the wing. I don't know how they got that intel, but I mean, Mudryk is literally a strict left winger from what I know. So I mean,
yeah,
it is quite interesting that there'd be. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really make much sense to me. I just find it funny how this even come out. Like, what the hell? But yeah, I personally think this is pressure on Shakhtar. Have kind of sent this out what we discussed, and and said that Arsenal need to pay up. But the thing is, like, even this is another one where I was reading, I think Arsenal, they're holding out for like 80, 85 million, but
I think Arsenal bid 60, 65 million euros, didn't they?
yeah, but it's a lot with like, I think Fabrizio, if I'm not wrong, said like it could be done with like add-ons, and I think Arsenal bid like 2 sets of add-ons. They rejected it, so I don't know. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Todd Bowley's got to get a hijack at some point after last summer, but
Yeah, to be fair, we did miss out on a lot of targets.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't see this one personally. I can't see this one.
Do you, just whilst we're on wingers, do you expect any of them to leave in January? We know that Christian Pulisic, his future's always been up in the air. He probably does want to leave Chelsea. I suspect this will be his last season. And Ziyech as well. I mean, do you expect Pulisic or Ziyech to potentially leave in January?
I think depends on incomings. I think if a winger comes in, I think that could be something. But again, I'd be careful if I was Chelsea, because before you go out and buy a winger, I think, if you then want to sell a Pulisic or a Ziyech, you want to really have some sort of club coming to you saying, we're interested if we're interested really in January. So if Chelsea can line something up, then potentially that's why they would be going for a winger, in my opinion. If a move was lined up for one of the other wingers, because with the wingers it's a bit difficult. Like we've got like a few, but it's usually a case of like when you sign a winger, it's usually one in, one out. So yeah, I mean, I'd be interested. It's interesting as well how Fabrizio mentioned Pulisic before Ziyech in his slide stream. I thought that was quite like, like it's always been Ziyech leaving.
Yeah.
Pulisic have got chances to leave, but it's always been Ziyech first, and he mentioned Pulisic first. So maybe something's going on behind the scenes. I'm not sure.
Well, I think it's clear that some players have got to leave to balance the books and to bring some money back into the club. I mean, I don't know if any are expect. I think in January I don't expect any to leave unless good offers come in. But in the summer, obviously, I think a lot of players will eventually be moved on. This is not true. That Enzo won't be registered. That FFP thing isn't true in that case. But people that are worried about FFP, just trust that the guys in charge. They know what they're doing. They're not stupid. They're not going to do something that's going to put Chelsea in breach of financial fair play. Mate, let's move on to the right back situation. Obviously, Reece James injured again against Bournemouth, out for another at least a month. I think it'll be 5 or 6 weeks until he's actually maybe back playing again, which is a big blow. I mean, the initial plan was for Chelsea to follow through with a new right back in the summer. But I think now that plan's going to have to be brought forward. Do you expect a right back to arrive this window? I mean, the names being talked about, Malo Gusto at Lyon, Juranovic at Celtic, which would probably be the cheapest option. What do you reckon is going to happen here? Do we expect someone to come in? I don't think we can't continue with Aspie for this run of games we've got. And Reece James, to be honest, I'd be surprised if he was back before the Champions League game against Dortmund.
Yeah, I think this has got to be one of Chelsea's priorities, in my opinion. I think we have to do it. I generally do. I don't know who it will be. It's a difficult one because right backs, there's a lot of good right backs that are, very competent, very skillful in terms of going forward. But for me, I know Aspie's not the best defensively, and people say, oh, well, anyone's an upgrade on Aspie and stuff. I'd like to make sure we get someone that, if Chelsea can, or if Reece James gets injured, we can trust defensively as also going forward. So I know there's a few options. My favourite is Gusto from Lyon. I think he's absolutely amazing.
He's about,
he's
what,
very
20,
young,
21, is he?
I think he's actually younger than that, but yeah, he's very, very good. But I think Juranovic is quite likely from Celtic just because he's cheap, I think. But yeah.
Mate, so this is just another Enzo thing. Fabrizio just tweeted out now. Fernandez gave his green light to Chelsea already yesterday. Contract won't be a problem. It's about Benfica's position now. No decision today. Chelsea offering different terms than the release clause. And then obviously Roger Smith, the manager, is now in doubt whether to make him start tonight or not. Well, I think that's kind of what we already knew. Just a little bit of an update there. But mate, who would you'd prefer Gusto over Juranovic?
Oh, 100% Gusto for me. I think Juranovic offers more experience, but, Scottish Premier League is is not much to go off. I know
Yeah,
he's
it's
in the World
tricky, isn't
Cup,
it?
but,
It is hard.
you it's not to say you can't find, hidden gems or whatever, but I
Yeah.
think Gusto has just got so many years ahead of him. Like, it's just,
Hmm.
honestly, you should watch him play. I've watched him quite a few times. He's so fast. He's so good on the ball. He's really good dribbling. Yeah, he looks like a top talent. But again, I think price, if we need to do all these other things, we're going to need to find a quite a nice opportunity where we don't have to spend
I
much.
mean, I think Gusto could be 20 or 20, 30 million quid. Whereas Juranovic probably 10, 15. And I think if we're spending over 100 million on Enzo, and we need a right back, I suspect we might end up going for a potentially slightly cheaper option. But you're of the opinion, mate, that someone has to come in this window for sure at right back. We can't go for the rest of the season with just Aspie and then obviously Reece coming back probably in February time. We definitely need someone this window.
What's that, bro?
Definitely need a right back this window. We can't wait till the summer. Like that has to happen.
I mean, we could wait until the summer, but I think if we're proactive, and I mean, the ideal situation is that he obviously doesn't play as much as P, and we get someone in, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Mate, let's talk about. So I just want to go back to midfield and current players here. Mate, what were your thoughts when the news came through yesterday that from David Ornstein that it looks like Chelsea and Kante could be are close to agreeing a new contract? That kind of took everyone by surprise. I think it was kind of sort of common knowledge that a lot of people were expecting Chelsea and Kante to part ways in the summer. If he does end up renewing, by all accounts, I think it will be on reduced money. I think the length of contract is really important. I think it's got to be incentivized by how many appearances he makes. Because let's be honest, I don't trust him to be fit for 15 games a season. And I don't care how good you are. Like, if you can't play more than 15 games a season, it's useless. I mean, mate, what were your thoughts on that news? Because I don't know about you, but it took me a bit by surprise. So I wasn't really expecting it.
Sorry, bro, you cut out at the end.
Sorry, mate. Kante, were you surprised by the news yesterday that it could be close to agreeing
Yeah,
a contract extension? Because I wasn't expecting that at all.
honestly, it's just another thing I was absolutely shocked at. I was like, what? Yeah, I mean, again, I think what's been reported is that he's now open to discussing different payment terms. So potentially even taking a wage cut, which would be good for us. I mean, everyone loves Kante. I love him. I adore Kante. He's a club legend. I honestly, if he was fit, like we would have the best
Kante,
midfield.
Enzo, and
Or
Kovacic.
and Jorginho and Mount and everyone else. Like,
Yeah.
we'd have the best midfield in the world. But yeah, the priority now is just. I guess some of the excitement is not so much because he's just been so injured. You don't really know what to think of it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just that kind of like sort of. From my end, I'm like, I've always been okay keeping him just in the off chance that we get a new medical team, they manage to rehabilitate him properly, and I mean, like, who knows, bro? Like, we could end up getting to like. I mean, I was going to say a cup final, but we got City. But we could get to the cup final of one of the cups,
No, it's possible.
Kante could come and drop a masterclass and win at us, and we'd all say, "Well, it's worth it then, isn't it?" So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, but the thing for me is though, there's no guarantee that when he eventually does get back to playing, that he's going to be like what he was. I think he's going to have to adjust his style of play now that he's gotten a bit older. I think his body can't deal with the way that he plays, the way that he plays at his age now. Mate, what do you expect from him when he does get back to playing? Because we haven't seen him play for so long. He's been injured for virtually best part of two years. I mean, how good do you reckon he's going to be when he comes back?
I mean, I don't know. Kante's Kante, bro. Like, I think he will still be,
Still be decent.
yeah. Like, if we put him in a big game, bro. Like, I still said that. I said to someone on Twitter yesterday, that performance against Spurs was still our best individual performance of this season for me. I can't remember another one that I was like, okay, that's close, or even to the level of it. So yeah, I still think Kante's got it in him for sure. For sure, I do.
Mate, and in terms of Jorginho, and as we said, like we I think it's widely expected that, one of them was going to stay or both. But there is a contract offer on the table for Jorginho. I don't think he'd be. I don't think he wouldn't be keen to stay. I think he would be keen to stay, and I think it would make sense for him to stay in some regard. But if Enzo comes and we want to bring Declan Rice, and then we've still got Kovacic, and we keep Jorginho and Kante, it suddenly means that Ruben and Gallagher are probably both going to have to leave. I mean, where do you stand on the Jorginho situation? Do you think now with this Kante news, I know he's not signed yet, but do you think that means that actually Jorginho is now going to leave the club, or do you think we could end up keeping both, which would be quite something?
I mean, I've got a feeling Jorginho will end up leaving, but I wouldn't be surprised if he stays, just because, how many times do we get like reports of, this is going to be revamped, and then, like, not to say nothing will end up happening, but people who you thought might leave actually then end up staying. That happens quite a lot in the transfer market and stuff with clubs. So I think Jorginho will leave, but I wouldn't be surprised or shocked as I was like Kante if he stayed, because he's not asking for much of a pay increase. I don't think so.
No, I think he wanted the same wages as Aspie, didn't he? He didn't really want.
It's like 150,000. He's on 120,000. Like people like.
Mate, isn't Ruben on more than him?
Ruben's on similar. I think Ruben's on like 150 something. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love Jorginho to stay as a backup to a new DM. I think that would be like, imagine we had Rice and then Jorginho is like teaching him how to
make
angles and play out the back. I mean, if you could teach him that, we'd be set.
No, but we would be set. I mean, mate, if Enzo comes in January, which it looks like he will, would you be tempted? I know we can't. We don't want to be like, we don't want to do ourselves in and leave ourselves light. But would you be tempted to try and get some money for Jorginho in January if Enzo arrives? Or is that a bit too risky?
I think that's too risky. Yeah, I think that's too risky. No, I'd be surprised if that happened. Also, I don't know who would pay for Jorginho. I mean,
how much do you reckon he's worth with 6 months left on a contract? He probably isn't worth very much, is he?
I'd still think 25 mil, yeah, something like that. But no, I wouldn't sell him. I personally, I'm a fan of Jorginho. He has his weaknesses, but I know it was Bournemouth the other day, but like, it's just the little things, bro. Like how he makes us play, the angles he makes. Like there was one moment where he was shouting at Koulibaly, where he was saying Koulibaly was supposed to be there, and Koulibaly moved over. Like it's just little things like that are so important to the team in terms of experience and the leadership he brings. And also, like, I just think he's massively disrespected. Like he loves Chelsea, he loves the fans. Like, there's no need to hate on him the amount that people do.
Mate, also, people forget he came third in the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, I know. I also think the thing that people don't realise is, how people were hating on him a lot, like last season and stuff. You know how many games he played in a row because we didn't have any suitable backup? Like, do people ever take...
It wasn't fully fit either for a number of those games.
People don't take into consideration that, these players are human as well. So... yes, he does have his limitations. Yes, he's not physically built. Yes, he's quite slow, but he still offers us a lot that people just don't really take into account, or maybe they just ignore it because they're weirdos. I think that's also the case, maybe.
Yeah, I think, mate, I think some people just don't like players. I think it's just as simple as that. It doesn't matter what they do or how good they are. I don't know. What's this here? Chelsea splashing undeserved money to buy success.
What team do you support, mate?
I'll tell you what the best thing about all this is, right? Is all those people, right, that were saying, "Oh, we're finished. Chelsea are done. They're not going to be able to spend any money. The sanctions are going to ruin them. They're going to go out of business." Mate, the best thing has been seeing rival fans moaning and crying again. I mean, it's good to be back in there.
Mate, it's been... oh, mate, I fucking loved it, honestly. Like, there's going to be a moment where, United and Liverpool will get their new owners in the next year or whatever, and we'll have to sit back and see them sign some big players. But right now, I'm drinking it in. There's one tweet today.
Is it that transfer checker guy? Yeah.
Checker, mate, honestly. Oh, mate.
Mate, he was fuming.
2,000 plus quotes, all Chelsea fans just saying cry. That's the fun part about Twitter, bro. That's the fun part about the window.
It is the fun, mate. The window's it's not even open.
It's not even open.
It's not even open, and people are losing their shit, and all sorts is going on. Mate, it's an absolute man. I guess it just goes to show, doesn't it, as well, that like, do you think that finishing in the top four is like it's a bit of a myth that it affects your ability to recruit? Because we managed to get in, we've got in Kunku, and it looks like we're going to get Enzo, and we still might not be playing Champions League football next season. Does that almost dispel that myth that you've got to have Champions League football to get the best players?
No, I still think it's prevalent, but I think it's less prevalent when you're doing deals early. So, like doing what they're doing right now for Nkunku and doing what they're doing right now for Enzo means that you know we're still in the Champions League right now.
Yeah,
And
mate, think how
I
good
think
this could be for our Champions League chance. I'm not saying Enzo coming makes us win the Champions League, but certainly improves our chances too.
yeah, I think so. And yeah, I just think if you do deals early, if you set the project out early and you don't leave it to the summer, like when you finish, or if we finish fifth or sixth, and you like, it's much harder, I think, when you're in the summer and you've got so many clubs, like because in the summer, and Kunku might have Chelsea, but he might also have like I don't know, Man U. He might have Real Madrid. He might have Bayern. Like
Yeah,
and at that point, I don't think you're going to choose the club that's not in the Champions League because you want to play for
no,
next season. But doing it early, you're kind of like, first off, it shows incredible intent to the player. It shows that you really want them. And second of all, you get to lay out your project early without anyone interfering. Players are buying into it, bro. Like they're not. And Kunku didn't
mate.
say no.
The
Like
project, mate. The
Kunku
project's
didn't say no.
exciting. The project's exciting.
It
Mate,
is.
would
You're
there's a few
excited.
people asking, would I don't know if you know this, would Enzo be cup tied in the Champions League if he came to us in January?
I actually don't know that, to be fair. But it's not
I don't
something
know what the rules are.
yeah, it's not something that's been mentioned so far. So it'll be interesting to see if like a tweet comes out from someone on that.
Oh, mate, this guy's proper bitter still. Both would have been supporting Spurs or West Ham if Roman didn't come. Well,
Well, what team do you support, bro? Come on, what team is it?
no,
Spill the beans.
he hasn't said what team he's going to support. And ultimately,
Spill
as
the
well,
beans.
right? It always seems to be tears when it's Chelsea signing players. Where's the fuss when Liverpool spent what 70 million quid on Nunes? They might get Bellingham for over 100 mil this summer. Arsenal looking to spend 60, 70 million quid on Mudryk. Yet because it's Chelsea, it seems to be a massive problem. There never seems to be the same energy for other teams. But I don't think people realise that every team to be successful, you have to spend money. It's as simple as that. The only exception was Leicester City that 1 year. Generally speaking, every team spends huge amounts of money to be successful. Like Man United has spent over £1 billion in the last 10 years and won virtually fuck all. So, like, I don't get why people are just getting so jealous of Chelsea. Like, we're at the moment we're eighth in the table. I think that makes it even worse for people as well. The fact that we're eighth in the table right now, we're not playing well, and yet we can still get some of the best players in the world. Does that go to show, mate, that we still actually? Because I thought in the past that we actually perhaps lacked a bit of pull. Do you think these sort of deals are showing that we still have a lot of pull?
I think we've always had thought. I just think with our approach to transfers in the past, it's not been good. We just take such a long time under Marina. Like there was never that like, to be fair, when Czech joined, and obviously there was that story of like him and Balak meeting up with Werner, and I think maybe Havertz as well. Obviously
Yeah,
that helped us because we had someone, not really like a recruitment team, but we had people out there to meet these players, whereas Marina was just doing like literally everything by herself for many years, which didn't help us. But now we've got like a recruitment structure in place. We can do multiple things at once. We can send Vivel to Portugal. We can send, Boli could be doing the Monaco deal with Badiashile. Like we've got all these areas covered and things are moving faster now. So, and I think our poll is showing because it's all about intent for me. It's all about who gets there first, who delivers the message first. So I think that's what it comes down to with these players. They want to, at the end of the day, like they just want to be appreciated. Chelsea's all that name. Chelsea is always going to be a massive club. We're always going to be two-time European champions. So I think it's all we've always got the pull. It's just about our intent. How fast do we act? What do we do to convince the player? How do we approach the agents? I think these things are and have improved already clearly under this ownership by like unimaginable lengths. Like it's ridiculous.
mate, I can't believe how quickly things have changed in the transfer market in such a short space of time. These guys have been here, 6 months pretty much, maybe a little bit longer. And already we look like a completely different club in the way we operate in the transfer market. We're ruthless, we're efficient, we get things done. We're not afraid to put the money on the table. Yes, okay, on some instances we might overpay, but we do everything we can to get the player. Very lastly, I just wanted to quickly talk about Badia Shields. I forgot to mention it earlier. What are your thoughts on that deal? I mean, we have just signed 2 centre-backs in Fofana and Koulibaly in the summer, obviously to replace Christensen and Rudiger. Badia Shield, obviously a left-footed centre-back, left-sided centre-back. There was only really one of those in the squad. I mean, what are your thoughts on this deal? I mean, because I look at it and I think this probably spells the end of our pursuit for Josko Gvardiol, although I wouldn't rule anything out. But do you think that Badia Shield coming is going to mean that Gvardiol's off the table?
Yeah, I'd think so. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happens with our centre backs like Colwell as well next summer. See what happens with him. But Badia Shield, I think, from what I've seen, made a little comp on him as well. Went through a lot of clips, which will be released when the Here We Go comes. I'm just waiting for that. But yeah, no, I think he looks good. He looks promising. He does have like a moment where, it's really hard to explain because he's really good on the ball. But there was like a few clips where I saw where if he's put under like loads of pressure, sometimes he just makes a quick decision and like plays it off the pitch or just does like a dodgy back pass or something. But overall, I mean, he's got all the attributes to succeed in the Premier League. He's tall, he's physical, he seems decently quick. I'm very interested actually to see like how mobility wise he handles with the faster play and faster attacks.
Yeah.
But I've got quite confidence. I'm not gassed about it, but I've got quite confidence with the scouting team we've got, the new directors obviously, and I mean another thing I was going to say, he's played like he's 21. I think he's played 130 times for Monaco. So
yeah,
this is not someone that's going to be like, obviously Premier League's different, but he's not going to be scared of playing games. So,
and he's a physical presence as well. 6'4". Very experienced for how young he is. Mate, do you expect him to go straight into the first team squad? Like, we're not going to loan him out or anything. Do you think he'll go and he'll compete with Silva, Koulibaly, Chalobah, Fofana?
Yeah, everyone. Yeah.
I mean, and he predominantly plays in a 4. I mean, I think again with this as well, I think it's smart business to get this deal done early because again, Silva's not going to go on forever. Yes, he probably will sign an extension, but he'll be 39 next season. His game time will be less. So I think it makes sense to plan for the future. But I mean, 3 centre-backs to come in. I guess left-sided centre-back, I suppose we're, again, just trying to replace Rudiger still with Badia Shield. I mean, I don't think we realised how much we've kind of missed Rudiger. But I guess with Badia Shield and Koulibaly on that left-hand side, but just very briefly, mate, what do you think this means for Levi Colwell with Badia Shield coming in? Do you think that means that his future's done, or do you think there's still an opportunity for him to prove himself at Chelsea?
What's that, Roy?
Colwell, do you think he's still got a chance to prove himself at Chelsea next season, or do you think with Badia Shield arriving that's probably him done?
See, I got cooked for this on Twitter the other day. I did like a centre backs thing for next season. I didn't have Colwell in there, and everyone was like, "Oh, you don't watch him, you think he's shit." And I was like, "No, like it's
just being realistic, isn't it?"
I just don't trust this club to not sell.
Again, he's going to be an asset, isn't he? He'll probably be worth maybe 30, 40 million quid, and we need to bring some money back into the club.
That's what I fear is going to happen. And obviously, he was open to leaving last summer as well. Let's not forget that. So, and what people don't, sort of take into account a lot is like these players, they want to play, they want to start. Like Livramento left for that reason. Like, other players left for that reason that we sold youth player wise. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back in, like, especially if he keeps performing this way and he thinks, these young players, they have egos on them, bro. Like they do. They think, I want to start, I want to progress my career. And if I'm not starting at Chelsea, I don't want to sit around and be a bench player. Like that's how these players think nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, it just is. So we'll see what happens. I think this one is going to be interesting because, he obviously did sign for them when Graham Potter was there. So I don't really know how much that
did,
into it. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, mate, this is also a good point. Potter did actually want Enzo when he was at Brighton and was scouting him at River Plate. Obviously, went to Benfica instead. Mate, that probably seems like a good point to round out. No more kind of news has come through. We've covered a lot of stuff. Guys, thank you so much for getting involved in the chat. As always, really appreciate it. Please make sure you smash the likes on your way out. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Lots of new faces in here, which is great to see. So please become part of the community and subscribe on your way out. Would really appreciate it. Pys, thanks for your time as always, bro. Greatly appreciated. Make sure you follow Pys on Twitter. Linked in the description. It's on his screen name as well. There'll be loads of news coming out. Possibly tonight over the next couple of days, so make sure you're locked in for that. Bro, any stuff coming for the website, articles, etc.?
Yeah, I'm not sure when to release it at the moment because we've just got so much news. I want to optimize it properly, but I think we've got an article coming out from Euro Expert. If you guys know him, quite good with the European stuff. He's going to do, he has done a piece on looking at goalkeepers that Chelsea could buy should they sell Mendy. So be looking out for that one soon.
Perfect. Yeah, guys, make sure you check all that out. I'll be back tomorrow night with the lads from Forest Fan TV for a preview for Chelsea Forest on Sunday. So stay tuned in for that one. But yeah, guys, until then, take care. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a great new year and up the Chelsea.